So I'll probably get my dogs barking in the background. They like to do that for, basically no damn reason. But anyway, these are the tools that I use in conjunction with EVE Online. You're going to find a lot of different people use, well, probably pretty much the same tools. I have seen on YouTube they cover things like Zkill. I'm not covering that. You're probably already aware of it, or you'll end up finding it. These are tools that I think are pretty basic in that these are the bare minimum that are going to help you more manage your characters and to some extent the finances. The video should be pretty short. Mine are limited to 15 minutes. I just don't feel the need to give Google, YouTube, my personal information that they want for it to be longer, at least not now. I also can't post links in the description, so I apologize for that, but I will list the programs so you can quite easily do a search with the name and match it to the video to make sure it's correct. You can also pause the video at any time, of course, and probably pull it right out of the URL field. So I don't run Windows. I realize that is the most popular platform, but I gave that up probably around Windows 7. I've been a Unix system engineer, among other things. I have a particular distaste for Windows, mostly due to stability and vulnerability. That said, again, it is probably the most popular platform, so there's going to be a lot of choices for tools you can use to help monitor, track, and manage your characters, resources, and EVE wealth. These tools are also usable on Windows, so it's no problem. Now, if you use Linux or Mac like I do, Mac's actually Unix, so that's why I prefer that. I like the Unix underbelly for it. It's been a lot more stable. There's less issue with virus, things like that. But it does have its kind of limits coming to gaming because not as many game producers or manufacturers make it for that platform. And if you run Linux, you know what I'm talking about. So these, like I say, they're going to help you monitor, track, and manage your characters, resources, and your money. I'm going to start with what I think is the most important one, or at least the one that I use the most, and that's EVE Buddy. And this one, it's available in pretty much every platform, I believe, including mobile. Now, let me see if I can switch over to my browser. Now, this is EVE Buddy. If you used EVE Mon back in the day, it might be deprecated now, even for Windows, but it was an awesome tool. You could view your character's training, pretty much everything. Well, if you liked that, you're going to love EVE Buddy. It tracks your characters, your corporations, your assets, in both the characters and corporations. They're just, and it's getting updated probably on average every couple days. I'll enlarge this just so you can get a better picture from his sample. It doesn't show a lot on the sample, but it'll give you an idea. Scroll down, you can see he's got a mobile version for that too. I have used the mobile version. I personally just found it a pain, not the app itself, but to keep both of them in sync. So if you add a character, I have a lot of different accounts. So if you create a new character, you have to add it on your desktop, and you're going to have to add it on your mobile. And it's just too much of a pain for me. I can't find a use for having it on my mobile. There's nothing that urgent that I've got to look it up while I'm out doing stuff. So the next one I used, because you're really limited in viewing the market. So yeah, I've been playing since 2004, and what we used to do then is to keep characters in different regions. I'm gonna have some fun here. Let me get this going. That way you could check the market hubs in those areas, and try to, find the cheapest price. That's changed over the years. One of the greatest things was the centralized hub at Uli, which they did away with now. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. So that was a pretty sad day. I thought it was a pretty sad day. So this one, there are two that are online, and I have only found one of the two to be that accurate. Now you can still keep characters in different regions. For sure I do that. Recall these drones. But this one is going to be Eve Tycoon. If you're not familiar with that, let's see if I can pull that one up. So in Eve Tycoon, what you do is just put in like a Navy, select it from the list, and so far it's been dead accurate. Now it's not going to tell you how many jumps it is from you, so you'll need to put that into your map and check it out. But it's been very accurate. Just the other day I bought a Drake, and it was in high sec, and it was 20 million cheaper than the lowest other. So I paid like 40 million for it. You're going to save yourself a lot of money and a lot of time by looking up the pricing. If you're looking to buy, it's the same thing for selling. You'll see the buyers in the different areas. Jita isn't always the best deals, so keep that in mind. Buying and selling. I've managed to save a fair amount just by spending a little extra time and flying out and picking up from another location. Yeah, I used to do a lot of mining. I'm not so much into that anymore. I got a really good deal on a Blueprint, and so I figured, what, I'll just go ahead and mine some of that up when I'm bored, or when I'm trying to put together a video. So the next tool that I use, this one might be a little more obscure. It's Eve Settings Manager, and I'll pull that one up. That is right here. Now, it's an interesting tool. So when you have multiple characters, or especially multiple characters across multiple accounts, and if you're like me and you have OCD, it's really kind of a pain when all your interface is completely different on each character. I used to spend a lot of time trying to do it by matching it up. Then I went through and located all the DAT files and would copy them over from the character name, and that's a real pain in the ass. Eve Settings Manager works. You can select the one character as your primary, and it will copy it to all the others, and it'll offer to back up. Now, I will warn you, it's not that intuitive. It looks really simple, but it's not that intuitive. I would, of course, back up your files. I always recommend that anyway, but for sure before you use this, because if you back it up, you can always put it back. It's not going to cause any permanent problem. But you'll see the address up here to get that. It has saved me a lot of grief. a lot of time, because I'll get my interface set up just right, you know, and then I'll log into one of the alt characters, and all of that kind of muscle memory that you have gets a little lost. So being able to keep your interface consistent across your characters and across your accounts, to me is just priceless. Check my stuff here real quick. Okay. So the last one that I use, I used to use Pyfa. This isn't going to be Pyfa, in case you were going to guess. I still have it. I rarely use it. The in-game one is sufficient for me right now. But it's J-Eve Assets, and of course, if you assume the J is for Java, you're right. And I'm generally not a big fan of Java. It's a machine running in a machine. It's gotten better over the years, but I use the J-Eve Assets less and less now, mostly because Eve Buddy has grown to the point that you almost really don't need J-Eve Assets. I still kind of recommend it, just as kind of that backup. It may still do some things that Eve Buddy doesn't. The thing with this one is the representation of it here, I think, is pretty old. It hasn't been updated. But basically, if you've done any database work, what you'll find is you get an interface here, and it basically contains your field in that, so you can enter in an item and you do your, like select from. So it will contain that, and it works great. One of the other reasons I've been kind of weaning myself off of that is, as I've created new characters, this is now another tool that I have to update by adding the character to and all of that. I don't add a lot. I don't like to keep it all complicated. And the more tools you have that kind of do the same thing, the more pain it just becomes. It's just a lot more maintenance work for pretty much nothing. But those are the ones that I use, and I do want to throw out, there's a couple accounts that I do like to follow on Eve, and they're not going to be maybe the more popular ones. They tend to get too commercialized, and I'm just not a fan of that. But Ace Face, and of course Captain Benzine. He just does a fantastic job. I don't know if he's got a crew that works with him or whatever, but I love his videos. They just tend to be a bit dated now. A lot of them are several years old, and they don't necessarily apply to the ships he's covering. It's still a good reference point for it, because there are still probably a fair amount that do apply. But he covers so much about the ships themselves in that still does work. But I've tended to hunt down like Ace Face a bit more. But those are the tools that I'm using, and take a look at them, try them if you haven't. But yeah, my favorite one has been Eve Buddy, because I really missed EveMon, where it would let you track your training and all of that. Because if you're like me, you really don't want to find that you have a character that stopped training for even a day. You want to keep that stuff kind of queued up. That's become easier as Eve has made some changes. But anyway, those are them.